How much thought have you given to your daily routines? Not just what you do, but why you do it and how it impacts your day, relationships, and life. For many, routines feel like a series of uneventful actions taken every day that help get us on our way, sometimes becoming so familiar to us we don't even notice them, like a bathroom routine, the route we drive to work, what we do when we first sit down at our desk or turn on our computers. But what if they're actually the foundation that can give us energy, feel a sense of accomplishment, or maybe even help us build more resilience in our lives? In this final episode of our three-part series, MJ Insurance Chief Growth Officer and President of Benefits Consulting, Andy Vetor, reveals how seemingly small habits, from morning hydration to handwritten notes, creates the mindset and energy needed to show up fully for clients, team members, and family. But the most powerful insights come when Andy shares his journey through cancer, demonstrating how routines become more than just habits. They become anchors of control and determination in our most challenging moments. If you've struggled to maintain consistency in your routines or question their importance, this conversation will help you rethink how you start your day. It's an investment that you make in yourself. You know, one of the things you and I have talked about in the past is the importance of routines.
Yep.
You know, how important that they are and what we get from them. So have you always been someone who's got those routines, and can you share a little bit about them? Which ones that you really, really like to, that you feel get you from here to here and give you that really good energy for the day?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a person that has always had routines. I think as I've evolved in my career, I've understood more the importance of those things. And that's from having some really good coaching from people like you as well, right? Being open to how do I continue to get better? And some things that people may take for granted or think are, I don't know, hokey. I'll say it in that way. Like, I think they're really important to how you set the tone for your day and how you're going to show up. And so I know for me, like, it's small things. Like when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I go drink an obscene amount of water. Like I know, and that just kind of gets me going, gets me moving.
So hold on, I gotta jump in here on that.
Yeah.
You told me that 2 years ago, and that has stuck with me ever since. And I don't drink an obscene amount now, but I actually do get up in the morning and I drink water, and I always remember, so Andy drinks water. So I know fluid, hydrate, I'm going to drink water, but it's always stuck with me. So I've taken that one from you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I have this Yeti that I fill up a few times and drink that pretty quickly. The other thing for me is I want to go outside. And right now it's a little more painful than normal because we're sitting here in Indianapolis right now and it's, 20 degrees or something. So it's not that fun, but I go outside for at least a few minutes every morning just to kind of breathe the air, get the sun on my face, kind of get the vitamin D going a little bit in my body and get me moving. I then go in and I grab my coffee and go in my office, and a lot of people journal. I don't journal. I actually write notes. I handwrite notes to people, like 1, 2, 3 a day, kind of depending on what is relevant.
Do you mail them? Do you hand them out?
Depends. Both. So it depends if I'm sending it to, a client or a friend or a center of influence, things like that, then I'm going to mail it. Usually if it's somebody that is on my team in the office, I'll just physically go and set it on their desk or something like that. And then after that, and so that kind of helps from the mental side of things, gets me connected today, gives me, it's gratitude for me too. Gets me in my mindset around gratitude.
Are you acknowledging people? Is that what it is? Are you like?
Most of the time it's, hey, thank you for this. I noticed you did this. Things like that. We were at this event together. It was great to see you. It is not, I don't want people to think I write War and Peace to people every morning. I mean, these are 2 to 3 sentence
I
thing.
wasn't going there, Randy. I did not assume that.
Wait. Yeah, I mean it's a 15-minute exercise. It's not something I'm dedicating an hour to in the morning. It's a quick let me do this, and I just think it means in today's age, I just think it means a lot because a lot of people don't take that time to write those notes anymore.
Right.
And then after that, it's workout, and I would like to say that happens every day, but unfortunately, schedules and other things get in kid commitments and things like that get in the way. But that is my objective every day is to get a workout in, and I kind of have a plan of what that's going to look like, so I can maximize my time prior to getting things going. So that is the routine that I go through on effectively a daily basis that I think gets me in a good spot to take on the day.
How do you, right? You're top producer. Okay. Very, very good. Very involved dad. I know you are. And now you are the leader of an organization with 300 or so people. How do you, I don't want to use the word balance. I don't have a better word though. Like, so how do you kind of map that out? And how do you, right, stay grounded?
I mean, for me, it's about prioritization. I mean, that's a really important thing is like, how do I prioritize my week too? So thinking about on Sunday night, hey, what do I have going on this week? How do I make sure that I prioritize those things? But I'll say more than anything, I have great people around me. So we've built a team that had we had the same team that I had when I kind of took over from a leadership perspective in the employee benefits area, which was 2012, there's no way, right? There's no way that I could balance all those things that you just talked about. But today, been able to delegate responsibilities to other people and to trust them to go and create that great experience for our associates and for our clients. And so a lot of it is just having great people around me and being willing to delegate those things, being willing to trust them, which is sometimes hard for people. It's hard to do that. I've got a great assistant, Nicole, who really keeps me organized, manages my calendar, makes sure I'm getting to the places that I need to get to. And she helps to protect my time too. Really good at being able to say, hey, Andy needs this time for preparation for this thing that's coming up there to get those. So I can actually focus in the areas that are most important to me. And my career has evolved. I mean, I used to spend the vast majority of my time, 90% of my time in prospecting or client activities. Well, as my career has evolved, that has dropped tremendously, that I'm spending less and less time in that. I'm spending more time in mentoring, developing people, strategy of the organization, and a lot of time with my kids. I still spend, like you said, I cherish that time because I said my kids earlier in the podcast, I said my kids were 12 and 14. That also implies that in 4 and 6 years, they're not going to likely be under my roof anymore. So I don't want to, while I have all these other responsibilities, I do not want to let that time be lost with my kids as well.
Yeah. Do you struggle with saying no, or you're pretty good at that?
I have to ask, I mean, some people would probably say I'm good at it. There's some cases I'm not. I mean, I still, part of it is I get so much enjoyment and satisfaction from spending time with prospects and clients. I love doing it, so when somebody asks me, hey, I got this deal, can you come with me? Like, it's hard for me to say no, right? I mean, and that's so, in some ways that is like, this is going to sound weird, like, but it's like selfish. Like I am like, I want that dopamine hit that I'm going to go out there and go to that meeting because I love it, And so sometimes I struggle to say no. I mean, but I've gotten to the place that what I just said about my kids and my family, like I have to say no to things. If I didn't, I wouldn't see them. And so I've had to really prioritize and say no to things. So I would say I'm getting better at it every day, but I'm still not great.
What are some of the agreements maybe that you have with yourself that guide you, right? You do play different roles. You've excelled at them, and so when you think about the agreements that you have with yourself, what comes to mind?
Yeah. I mean, so I would say,
I know it's not the easiest question. I get it.
no, it's okay. It's my wife and I spent time several years ago. It might have been at your urging. I don't know. There was a book called Five Big Questions for a Frantic Family. I think it's a Lencioni book, if I'm not mistaken. And we read that. And as part of that, you write out this family mantra thing. And we have spent a lot of time also in our organization at MJ in helping people develop their own personal development plans and writing their own kind of purpose statement. And for me, that purpose statement is at the core of it is creating exceptional experiences for others. And so that's the mindset. To me, it's like an others first type of mindset. How can I create an exceptional experience for these people? How can I create an exceptional experience for the client? What does that need to look like? How do we create an exceptional experience for this prospective client and how we're going to communicate with them? What would that look like? How do we create that for our associates? How do I create that for my family, for our friends? That's the filter for me in terms of how I think about it.
How do you, I'm putting myself in your shoes on that, and I'm thinking about how that I reflect on that. How do you create boundaries on that though, right? Because when you said create exceptional experiences for prospects and clients, I kind of got that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you said create exceptional experiences for your teams, right? Your associates.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that, but still be okay giving or having the tough conversation?
Yeah, well, I think that's how you define it, right? So for me, it's transferring ownership to them. Like that's the exceptional experience I can deliver for them is for them to take ownership of their own career and maybe learn from some of the mistakes that I've had over time, or to really commit to making themselves better. And for me, it's not any different than a prospect. A difficult conversation with an associate is what I owe to them. That might be the exceptional experience that I create. Even though in the moment they may not recognize that as like, hey, you didn't take me to Hawaii. That's not the exceptional experience. But the exceptional experience might be that I challenge them to really look deep within themselves to change some behavior that might change their trajectory for them, their families, generations down the road. Like that is the part that I connect.
And right, if they're the right person, right? If they're part of your tribe, they're going to gravitate toward that themselves. They're going to want that as well, right?
It's wrapped in that humility and vulnerability part. How do you have that conversation with them in a recognition that sometimes people need to hear something that may not be pleasant, or they may not want to recognize about themselves, but I owe it to them to give them that information and not to put myself first. The easy thing to do is to put myself first and go, they're not going to like to hear this. Maybe they'll be upset. Maybe they won't like me. Maybe they'll be, frustrated for a while. But if I deeply believe that it is something that they need to hear, because that's what's going to help them get better, it's going to, again, create an exceptional experience for them. I have to be willing to do that, but do it as we had talked about earlier, with vulnerability and humility.
I get what you're saying, right? It's like this deep thing in here where you feel like you owe them that. And if you're not doing it, you're doing them a disservice.
Exactly. I have said this to our teams, and sometimes people didn't like it. I said, I view it as not giving feedback to people that we all believe is appropriate is selfish for us. We have put ourselves above them in that moment. And I just think that's not what good leaders do.
Or good consultants and advisors, right?
They're not disconnected, right, Dan? Those two things,
yeah,
I think really do go hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a question, and if you don't want to talk about it, we don't. And I've never really asked you this, and I feel absolutely kind of shitty about it. Maybe it was a time of my life I was going through and all that, and that's on me. What did you learn about yourself through cancer?
I figured that's where you were going to go there.
And if you don't want to talk about that, we don't have to. But man, I mean, the way I never saw you down.
No, I wasn't. And so I mean, there's a lot that I learned about myself, but I tell people this all the time. Cancer diagnosis is the best thing that ever happened to me. And that might sound weird to have happen. And look, I was blessed. It wasn't like I was diagnosed with brain cancer and somebody told me I had 2 years to live, right? I was diagnosed with testicular cancer, which is a very curable form of cancer. It did spread and I had to go through chemotherapy and things like that. But I knew that there was a 99.9% chance I was going to be fine. This was going to be an inconvenience for me. But when you get that, I can remember being in the doctor's office and the doctor saying, you have cancer, right? And that, you don't know what that means. I wasn't prepared for that. I had a physical 3 days before. It wasn't like I'd had all these symptoms. I'd had a physical 3 days before. It felt fine. Went into the doctor's office and the urologist said, you have cancer. Like that was to punch you in the face moment. And you haven't done research. I don't even know what I'm dealing with. What cancer? What do you mean? So, I remember the drive home. I remember driving on 465, the loop around Indianapolis, and dreading calling my wife. My son was 1 at the time. So like, what is this going to mean? But the perspective that I got from that, I mean, unless faced with, I think your own mortality or mortality of one of your children or, something, there's probably a few other events in life that could give you the same perspective, but if I'm not here anymore, what does that mean? It's such a gift for somebody to have to say, oh my God, what am I doing in my life? Where are the places that I'm absolutely wasting time or I'm not doing what I think is, is fulfilling for me or for my family or whatever it is, right? I've only got we got a finite amount of time here. And every year, I'm sure you know this too, every year goes by faster and faster as you get older. So like you have this just finite amount of time that you're here. And it's like, how do I maximize that time? And I'm blessed. I was 31 or 32, I want to say when I got that diagnosis. So I was young, right? I mean, and so it gave me this unique perspective that most people don't get. They don't get that gift until later in their life that they're truly faced with their own mortality, in the moment. And so it taught me that. And the second thing it taught me was a little bit of toughness. Like I am a person, I think, Dan, you're probably similar to this as well. I need to control something. Like I'm not I can't just sit back and let it happen to me. Like I got to have something that I'm going to fight back. I'm going to battle. I'm going to do what
I'm not the whatever guy. I know that about me.
Right.
Whatever.
So when I was going through my chemotherapy treatment, I would go for the regimen would be, I would go for a week straight, and it was about 6 to 7 hours a day of getting pump filled with fluids and drugs and things like that.
Wow.
And every day I would come home and run 3 miles on the treadmill every day. And days I didn't feel like it. Right.
No. What was that like? Yeah.
It was control for me, period. It was nothing else. Right. Maybe there was a physical benefit to doing it. It probably was. I don't have a lot of side effects that other people do from it. And I think that might have been a piece of it, but it was total control. I got to control something. I'm not going to let this just happen to me. I got to go and get this sweat in. And so there was a piece from me that was just like, I can do whatever. I can do this. And not in challenges that we get faced with every day. I think they don't bother me as they might for some other people too, because of that perspective. Prospect tells me no. Okay. Like there's a lot more of them, like it's not that important.
You could say absolutely. Hey, listen, I've heard worse.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So,
exactly.
So did the mindset, couple questions, right? Did the mindset come natural to you? Did you feel actually a shift in your mindset over that experience?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I wouldn't say it was natural. I think but it happened. I mean, there was a mindset change that happened as a result of.
Like, what did you tell yourself a lot? Like when you went through that, what was a lot of the messaging you would tell yourself as you went through it?
I would say just it's not going to stop me from doing other things. I mean, I would sit there with my laptop while I was sitting in a chair that had, hooked up with things, and I was continuing to work. I mean, I remember when I got the diagnosis, when I knew I got the diagnosis, it spread and I knew I was going to have to do chemo. I grabbed my entire team together, gathered everybody in a conference room and said, this is what's happening. We've got a lot of initiatives. We have a lot of change going on. None of it is stopping. We're going to continue to push forward. There's other people that are going to step up here that are going to continue to lead. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be involved in these things. I just may not be physically sitting here some of these days, but it's not stopping anything else. So this isn't something that happened to me is not going to stop us, our organization, getting better, growing, and continuing to create those exceptional experiences for people. So that was just, that part was maybe innate to me because that was just reacting. Like I didn't know, there was no template for that. It wasn't like, when you get diagnosed with cancer and you're leading an organization, what do you do? Like it was just, here's naturally what I knew I needed to do in that moment.
Yeah. I appreciate you going into that. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to talk about that. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are maybe listening to this that have had a similar type of diagnosis or inflection point like that in their lives.
What I like about your story, I mean, there's a lot, and I could definitely put myself in your shoes on a few things that you did that I thought, yeah, I'd probably do the same. But what I really like the most is the treadmill example, where you were just like, no, I'm hitting the treadmill. And it was right. It was almost like I can control it. I get that part, but my gut is probably too, right? It was a little bit about, that's my fight, right? That's my fight in me.
It is the fight. You're right, Dan. It's the what I can control, that, and the control is I'm going to be, I'm not going to lay in the bed here and let it happen to me. I'm going to do something else. And it also was probably an opportunity for me to prove something to myself, whether it was at the top of my mind or if that was just in the back of my mind.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, I mean, right. So I have my regimen, as you know, where I get up early and I'm at the gym by 6, work out till 7. And so the next time I'm, thinking in my head at 5:15, do I get up or not? And I'm thinking about, taking the easy way out. I'm just going to remind myself, hey, Andy got on the treadmill.
Yeah.
Get your ass out of bed, Dan. I will. Get your ass out of bed, Dan. As we conclude our series with Andy, I want you to consider this. What story do your routines tell about your priorities, commitments, and most importantly, what you want to get out of life each day? Andy's dedication to running 3 miles every day during chemotherapy wasn't just about exercise. It was about giving himself a sense of control as he fought back against circumstances beyond his control. His morning practice of writing notes isn't just about gratitude. It's about creating exceptional experiences for others before his day even begins. What small adjustments to your routines could help you show up more effectively for the people and priorities that matter the most to you? Is it a quick workout, a few minutes of journaling or reading, a walk, a thoughtful cup of coffee? The list goes on. If you want some kind of change or improvement in your life, start by changing your routines. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress and presence. Start with one change and simply build from there.